Summertime, and the living's easy. Rallies on the microphone with Ross MG. All the people in the dance will agree that we're well qualified to represent the LBC. Me and Louis, we gonna run to the party and dance to the rhythm. It gets harder.
And good evening. This is the Dominance Academy. Welcome. And a Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate Christmas. I had a fine holiday today. I've got myself a new mic set up. That was one of my gifts. So let me know if the audio's fucked up. If the coming in too hot or picking up too much background noise or what have you. But welcome. Yes. Oh, gosh. So I'm dog sitting for a friend of mine. It's my dog's best friend. He's what is it? Kita? No, what is it? It's that kind of dog that's it's a Shiba. Like the meme. So he's a Shiba, and he's a really awesome guy, but he's like always wanting to go out. So right now he's at the back door saying, "Let me out," as if he needs to go out and take a piss, but he doesn't have to. He'll go out and he'll just curl up on one of the chairs that's out there. Like curl up on a cushion. It's like, bro, you made me come all the way out of here just so you can sit down in the cold. It's like, nah, screw off, buddy. You're not having it. Oh gosh. So if they keep it up, I might have to pause for a moment and attend to their whining and tell them not one for whining. Never liked it. Well, Louis is a good guy, you know, the big 80-pound pit, you know, he's like, yeah, whatever. I'll just rest. I'll rest and just chill the fuck out. Yep. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about why women do not like weak men. Why they don't like weak men? Why do you think women don't like weak men? All right, I'm gonna see about this guy getting outside. Pardon me for just a moment. And then he's gonna want to come back in. Little shit. But yeah, so why do you think that women reject weak men? Like, why can't they just accept, just like a regular dude? You know, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with accepting just a regular dude? There shouldn't be a problem. Let me just turn down my gain a little bit. Sounds a little weird. But yeah, they hate that shit. And they get shamed for it. definitely. Right, the guys who they follow this whole like boogeyman Chad Tyrone archetype, and they're saying, well, what did they say? 80% of women are screwing 20% of the guys, or the large amount of women are screwing a small amount of dudes. And they get upset. They get upset with that. But the thing is that the attraction is not moral. It's not a moral thing, okay? It's neurological, it's emotional, and it's instinctive. It's not this thing that they're like actually choosing to do. Weak men and women are the same, both think and operate with their emotions, and she is simply looking for her opposite, someone to lead her. Yeah. Yep. It's too damn familiar. You know, girls are volatile little things. They're easily shifted and they're easily upset by variables that come through. Yep. And it's disruptive to them, right? Because they're naturally a little bit disrupted. It's just kind of how they are, okay? And so to be around a guy who is not stable, they can tell he's just not mentally stable. He's not emotionally stable. It's unsettling to her. Very much unsettling to her. So, I'm gonna mute this. This girl is okay. Yep. You know, and so the weakness that she senses in him, it signals instability to protect, to provide direction. Okay, because you know, guys will think, well, providing that's something financial. No, it's providing direction. And it's the inability to absorb pressure. And these are hallmarks of men for eons. The ability to protect, provide direction, and absorb pressure. It's what we do. It's in the makeup of who we are and how we are. And this is what they instinctually want, right? It's baked into them neurologically and emotionally. This is why when they see something of the opposite, it's almost offensive. It's almost offensive to them. And then the ego kind of jumps into play, because you've got this, to her perceptions is that there's this guy who is weak in her estimation, an emotional estimation. Okay, it's not really like analyzing him rationally, and he's coming at her, saying, "Hey, let's get together. You're cute. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's fuck, whatever." And this is an affront to her ego. It's almost like, oh my gosh, the bum wants me, and it's not flattering. It's not flattering at all. And so this is it's like throwing a stone at her ego. I don't know if they're inside yet, but yeah, it's like throwing a stone at her ego, and it's very disruptive, because she's like, fuck, like, how I thought I was prettier than that, where this guy, this worm, thinks that he can step to me. And this is not, again, like I said, this is not a rational thing. It's not something that's going on in her head, like, how dare he like step to me. There's nothing like that at all. It's really an emotional way of processing, and it's really an emotional offense type feeling. And so this even comes across like with guys who are, who are just nice, because we've all heard the tropes that women don't like nice men, they like jerks. And the thing is that nice is completely insincere, and it often gets confused with kindness. So kindness, I believe, comes from someone who has a truly altruistic heart. This is kindness. You're not doing it for anything other than because that's what you think is right. That's what I think kindness is. Being nice has sort of a plastic feel to it, doesn't it? It doesn't quite have the depth of kindness. Kindness has mindfulness associated with it. There's mindfulness alongside, and niceness does not have that. It's not mindful. It's very focused, and it's only thinking about the person who's delivering said niceness. And they know, they can taste it. They can taste the guy who's seeking approval rather than offering leadership. And the reason why she can smell or taste this approval seeking behavior is because, again, it reminds her of herself. Because when a woman comes across a guy who she views as above her in some kind of way, where she just looks up to him for some reason, be it his character, his mindset, his presence, the way she feels when she's around him, it shifts that thing. It makes her want to seek his approval. It makes her want to be good enough for him. And so when she sees someone behaving in that way, it doesn't look good. Like, it doesn't look good on a man. And who knows? Maybe it's a little bit of a rock thrown at her ego again, because it's like, wait a second, is that what I look like? It could be something along those lines. So, pardon me for constantly checking around. I'm just seeing if, like, what dogs are inside and what dogs are outside, so I can finally close the fucking door. And the other thing that society kind of messes up is that modern culture confuses kindness with submission and decency with passivity. So you could have a man who's kind and decent, but he's being mislabeled as being passive and submissive. And this just comes from pure observation. But I think if the woman has a strong instinct about who she's talking to, and I think she will, then she'll be able to tell the difference between someone who's nice and has some sort of subconscious ulterior motive, or someone who's actually kind, or someone who's decent and not actually being passive. So now that little fucker is barking, so I'm gonna have to bring him inside. Pardon me. Hey, there she is. What's up, kitten? Oh, it's like it's like having a sleepover with teenagers. They just want to keep fucking around it. And I want to say, all right, enough is enough. Time for quieting, silencing, settle down. Yeah. Anyways. So, obviously when a woman sees this approval seeking, and what is that? It's like when someone has the mindset of not being sure of themselves and checking to see if they are okay in the eyes of another. It's fairly simple. It's very easy to pick up on. And it's it just makes women's pussies dry up. The respect meter goes all the way down, and it's not virtuous at all. A nice guy will think that he's virtuous. He'll really paint himself as like the unsung hero in his own narrative. He's the good guy, which is really weird. They believe that they're the hero that no one is recognizing, that he's the good guy, he's the dude with the cape and the S on his chest. And that's simply not the case. He doesn't realize that he's the villain that continuously fails. That's who he is. In like those cartoons, like there's always that villain who always fails. He's like Wile E. Coyote. Not one single thing works out for him. And you almost want to feel bad for him because the boulder just keeps falling on his head or gets hit by a train, right? And but you can't, because you're like, he's creating all of this himself. And so I don't really have compassion for guys who are routinely played by girls and have a woe is me victim sort of mindset and think that it's the woman's fault, until you look at their behavior and the guys are absolutely creating all of this. Because the way respect works is that it's not just given away for free. And that's the funny thing, is that the way these guys are behaving, they think that they deserve respect because they're not being a jerk. And it's just funny because girls are screwy that way, where if you're a bit of a jerk, they will respect you. But not a jerk for jerk's sake, because what can be perceived as being a jerk is having boundaries, telling a woman no, correcting her. I mean, shit, I correct my girl all the time. And I don't know what it is. Maybe she could explain it, but there's like, I feel like there's like maybe she's used to it by now, but like a startling of the ego. It's when, I think that's with anybody who's rarely corrected, and then they're corrected. And they're like, whoa, hang on a second. And since most guys don't ever do this with women, they don't correct their behavior, they don't correct their words, they don't correct their punctuation, then when someone does, it's like, holy shit, what the hell just happened? Kind of like not girls aren't bullies, but like when the bully finally gets punched in the face and they're like, holy shit, like what the fuck is that? But this is what they need. And that's not to say that women are out here sloppy, that they're messy people, that they're just out of control or whatever. But in those moments when it's necessary, I think it's very important for a woman to be corrected. And not necessarily for the sake of the boundary. Like that's very important, obviously. But it's the wake, sort of like when you drop a stone in the water. Certainly the stone is important in that formula, but the ripples that extend out from that are just as important. They're just as important, like to the whole formula. And those ripples are her emotions. You expressing the boundary is that pebble being dropped in the water. And so she feels those ripples. That's the really important thing, is that she gets to feel the ripple effect emotionally from your actions, from your words. And this is the profound part, much more profound than the actual boundary. Like the boundary is static, right? It just remains still. And of course, like the ripples wouldn't exist without that boundary. So of course it's necessary and important, but the boundary itself does not create an emotional effect. It's the strengthening and the guarding of that boundary, the activating of that boundary, which is what causes the emotional ripples. And this is what courses through her. And this is what creates a lasting effect. And she's like, whoa, look at that. Like her part of her mind's like, wow, look at that feeling. That I haven't experienced before. And he's not like laying into her, right? It's not like hitting her with a left hook. Okay. It's done with control. And that also creates a rippling effect. Because it's one thing to be faced with violence of some sort, even if it's just verbal or emotional violence, and to feel that, okay, because that creates, an instant reaction, cowering, a tightening of the spirit. But when one can sense the controlled violence, this has a much different effect. I've talked about, like, say, two kinds of killers that you're faced with. The first one is a berserker. He's absolutely insane, raging. He wants to kill you. Sure, that's a certain level of fear that's palpable. But then there's someone who's like Hannibal Lecter, who is supremely calm, incisive, and his fear cuts like a scalpel. And this, I think, is much more threatening, because he says, I could be a berserker, but I'm not. I have everything that he has, but it's controlled, which means I can direct it. I can do things with it. It doesn't run me, I run it. And that is a rippling effect. So when you're able to uphold a boundary and enforce it and address the situation with a lot of calm, without getting up out of your seat, without raising your voice, without getting flustered in any kind of way internally, this sends a very, very powerful signal to her that not only does she not move you, that whatever she does or whatever she said does not move you, that internally you don't move yourself. Because I think that we can all sense when someone's like resisting versus someone who's actually calm. Holding back is different than being restrained. Big difference. And this definitely produces a strong emotional effect in her. This is the type of strength that a weak man will not have. He'll be afraid. He'll be more afraid of himself. He'll have fears of himself as well as her, if he even attempts to put up a boundary. But I know from working with guys, they have a fear response just thinking about it. Just thinking just thinking about checking his woman or saying a certain thing or doing a certain thing, he'll have a fear response before anything even happens. Like he tells me about something that his wife did, something his wife said. And I say, well, how'd you handle that? He said, well, I didn't. I just kind of ignored it and went to the other room. And then I explain what he should have said and how he should have handled it. And then I call him out. I said, that feels really uncomfortable, doesn't it? And they're like, absolutely. Because they're so afraid of unpleasant outcomes. So that's another thing that's unspoken to a woman when you are fine with your boundaries, is that you have no fear of the outcomes. You don't fear losing her. You don't fear upsetting her. You don't fear her anger or her sadness. And then what that says on a sort of an ancillary level is that she is not a burden. She can react however she wants, and she will not be a burden to you. And this is really, really important. Super important that you are not affected. Because this is the sort of thing, when it happens repeatedly, which is what gives a woman confidence in you. Because to create confidence in something, we need repetition. We need consistency. And when it comes to human behavior, we need to see the thing over and over and over in order to be certain that it's not a fluke, or that they are wearing a mask, or I don't know, it just happens to be a good day for them. That they are truly this way. And so they'll be watching you for weeks or even months to say, hey, I wonder what happens when this happens. How is he going to react? Now, granted, they're not, again, thinking about this stuff rationally. It's not this, premeditated sort of plan to sort you out. It doesn't work that way. Oh, I gotta remember to do this tomorrow. Okay. So, one of the other things that, so with respect to that, what women seek, I think, on a subconscious level, because they may not actually admit to this right off the top, is that they don't want to be managed emotionally, but they want their emotions to be contained. And by you not having any sort of fluctuation or response, like emotional response, you don't get triggered in any kind of way. This is what says to them, he is able to contain me. He is a container. Because a container is not bothered by whatever's in it. I mean, unless it's a weak container. If you get one of those paper cups from the deli with coffee in it, if you keep it in that cup long enough, it'll start leaking through the seams. The seams will get weak, and then it'll just start leaking onto your countertop. But a ceramic mug or stainless steel mug, it's not going to do that. The liquid could stay in that cup indefinitely and do nothing. Absolutely nothing to it. Absolutely nothing. In fact, that liquid could stay in the cup so long that the liquid just evaporates before it even affects the vessel. And this is kind of what happens when you are able to be this emotional container, is that she will dissipate. There was this thing, I don't know if it's true or not, but my my sifu, he told me that there's this Chinese saying that strong winds don't blow forever. And that's the same sort of thing. Like eventually she's going to lose steam. especially if you're non-reactive. Because when you react, you actually put energy into the storm. And that's when you have a back and forth. You know, she says something, you get triggered, you say something back, and then she gets triggered, and then you go back and forth until people are so angry that they're not talking anymore, and they're just stewing, doing passive aggressive stuff, slamming this door, closing this book with force, storming out of the room, right? And it's because he's not the container. He reacted and he added energy to the flux, and it just made it bigger, made it more volatile. When in essence, if say she's too upset to communicate with, you can just acknowledge it. Say, hey, listen, I can see that you're really upset right now. We're going to put a pin in this conversation. We're going to come back to it when you're ready to have a conversation. And then that's it. And then you drop it and go back to reading your book, or go out and, go to the gym, or get on your motorcycle, or go to another room, or turn on the TV, or just do anything that your heart desires. Again, that's a boundary. That's saying, I have rational conversations. I don't have arguments with anybody. And so when you're willing to completely disengage the conversation, it prevents them from really bringing in a whole bunch of shit. Again, if she flares up again, you say, well, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm not having this conversation until you are calm. I'm happy to hear everything you want to say when you are calm. And you just keep repeating it. It's like a broken record until it sinks in. Maybe if after she doesn't listen to that one, say she's really upset, wants to keep going in, you just leave. Excuse yourself. Go grab your helmet and do a wheelie down the street. Or whatever your version of a wheelie is. So another thing that weak men do is that they outsource authority to consensus, permission, or validation. So weak men are not their own authority. And this is a funny thing, and I'm not saying this to shit on religious dudes, but I spend a lot of time on Clubhouse, usually just kind of playing in the background while I'm doing something. I'm listening to these conversations of people, relationships and stuff, and pretty regularly the topic of submission comes up, and yeah, just people are just obsessed with women submitting. And it's like, it's not that complicated. Either she does or she doesn't, and of course, what we went over, there's 6 levels of it, but that's part of the does. So if she does, then she's somewhere on that level, on one of those 6 levels. And if she doesn't, well, then you don't have to pay attention to her. And, and if she doesn't, then it's either a mismatch, or there's something about you that prevents a woman from trusting you that much. It's really that simple. But what becomes complicated is then looking within yourself to see what it is that's preventing women from trusting you about you, right? Because yes, they might come with some heavy trust issues. Of course, girls out there have been through some shit that really fuck with their ability to perceive well and to become vulnerable and trust. I get it. I experienced these things myself. And the thing is that trust is not a light switch, where there's just like a simple on and off. Okay. It's a dimmer. Okay. It's got a wide range. Okay. And this is why like trust can go up and down. It can waver. Okay. And this can be due to something within her. It can be due to something within you. And that's the dance. Well, that's part of the dance. That's part of the dance between a man and a woman. And this is why it's so important for you to be consistent, because if you can eliminate variables, then it makes things easier. You know, it's kind of like if someone's taking like a handful of medications and they have some sort of adverse reaction, and they're like, well, how do we know which one is causing the problem? It's going to be very hard because you have so many variables. Okay, so you just take one and don't take any of the others and see what happens. Then you swap that out for the next one, and then swap that out for the next one until you figure out what's causing the problem. This is this is the mindful way to go about this. Okay, and so this is why it's important for you to be consistent, because this reduces a variable. So if you can just count on you for being emotionally consistent, physically consistent, and mentally consistent, well, then that reduces the amount of things to figure out, right? To sort out what the fuck's going on. That why her trust dial only goes up to 45% and can't go any further. I've experienced that before. And sometimes it's her. Sometimes it's you. Okay. But you know, the easiest way to sort this out is to make sure that you are being consistent. If you're not giving any reasons for her to distrust you. All right. So you can say, hey, my backyard's clean. Come on over. You can check it. Check it for yourself. Find something that's out of order. I hope you do, because if you do, I'm going to correct it. And then it will be in order. Everything will be in order. So then it's like, well, let's look at your backyard. And if they have courage, they will look at their backyard with you. If they don't have courage, well, then it's going to be a long upward, a long uphill trudge, almost like Sisyphus, right? Pushing that boulder up the hill. And then it gets to the top and it rolls back down again. So like I said, like weak men, they outsource authority, consensus, things like that. And so these guys on Clubhouse, they're talking about submission, and they will say, well, in the Bible, it says that a wife is to submit to her husband or something along those lines. And I always hear this and think, man, if you need to rely on a book that you didn't even write to steel man your position, well, you're just not that guy. Like if you have to sit your woman down and go, well, look here, because it says in this book that you're supposed to do this. And she's like, what do you think? She's going to go, oh, damn, you're right. And because the book says it and it rationally makes sense, then I'm going to emotionally shift into vulnerability. And I don't think that's the way vulnerability works. Would you agree? Yes, doing donuts with your bicycle. There you go. But so this is why it's foolish to try to like convince a woman of something. You know how you convince a woman of something? By grabbing hold of her emotions. I mean, marketing and advertising are masters at that. They convince women to buy shit that they don't need constantly by harnessing their emotions. So if you ever really want to convince a woman of something, is you harness their emotions. Make them see something by feeling it. And this is because of that integrated nature of women. They're somatic. Their emotions run through their bodies. Their body runs through their emotions. It's like everything's connected. So that's why the marketers, they can create action just by triggering certain emotions paired with visuals and certain audio messages. Very powerful, but you can do the same thing. You can do the absolute same thing. You can help her see something, help her understand something, have her feel joy, hope, sadness, shame, anger, guilt, fear, arousal, all of these things. if this is something that you wish to wield. But you got to trust yourself. Trust yourself that you can do this. So these weak men on Clubhouse, they will outsource authority. When men with a capital M, we are our own source of authority. My own codes are my authority. My principles are my authority. My rules are my authority. This is the Constitution that guides me, that I look up to. And so this dictates my behavior, and this creates a presence that affects how she sees and feels about me, or feels about herself in my presence. So this is the sort of thing that is important here. I'm not saying you should do this because my principles say that you should. Even if it makes sense, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's not going to move her emotionally. Only I am going to do that. So if you're that guy, don't stop appealing to authority. Don't be like, well, in this great and old powerful book, it says that women should be like this. Like, nah. You're just like shouting into a tornado. It'll do nothing. You'll be drowned out. So so another thing that women despise about weak men is their intolerance to friction. And this is why they appeal to authority. This is why they're nice. And it's because leadership requires friction tolerance. You have to be okay with the notion that if you give a command, that they may not like it. And that's okay. Like, it's okay for you to not like what I've told you to do. You're more than free to feel how you feel. The real question is it going to get done? Right? I've got your back, right? I've chosen to be your leader. And you've chosen to follow me. So I've got your back. But in this micro, right? Because that's the macro. In the micro, I'm saying, do this. That's what I expect of you. And we can deal with your feelings about it later. Yes. Yeah, there's always been weak men. Always. That's just the nature of the universe. Right? That's the Tao. It's everything. Everything has, the positive and negative poles. All right. There's always been weak men. And the reason why that there are so many weak men is that it's like for every 1,000 weak men, you can have one man with a capital M. And then the energies are balanced. It takes 1,000 of them to equal one. And so that's why there's so many more weak men. Okay? Because if it was like on a 1-to-1 ratio, the strength of the presence of a singular man would topple over the presence of a singular weak man or weak male. All right. So that's why in order to create balance, you need to create like a ton of these things. So it's like a scale. On one, you have like a single rock. And then on the other part of the scale, you have like a mountain of pebbles. And they're the same weight. And so that's kind of how it needs to be. They need to be higher in number in order to create balance. The difference is that we're able to see them now and hear them because they can start up YouTube channels. They can get on panels. They can argue. They can create points. They can write books. They can create merchandise. They can do whatever they want, right? And they can say like, black pill for life. Black pill is life. Oh my gosh. If I was more of an asshole and a jokester, I would make merchandise like that. Like Black Pill is life. Or 4, have like the number 4, Black Pill for life. Oh my gosh. And just have like all satirical shit. But I'm not that way. I don't like poking that much because you have to care to poke. And I don't care enough to even poke. I'm just barely caring enough to talk about the shit that I just could care less about. Like I could care less about weak men, and I could care less about what women think about weak men. Like what why would I care about any of that? You know, but there's higher in number. All right. And some of these guys need to understand why women don't like them. So I make my material. I make the content. You know, but yeah, honestly, I could really give a shit. You know, like I've said before, it's like for me to really pay attention to a man, like really pay attention to them and give a shit about their presence on this planet, they need to be paying me. Because other than that, you're just wasting my time. And even the guys that pay me drag their feet. Some of these guys, like I've got a couple of guys who don't engage with me at all. They don't engage me not one bit. They pay me every month, and it's a good sum of money, and they don't engage. I write a message, it doesn't even get read. So maybe their notifications are quiet, but why are they not thinking like, I haven't heard from Justin in a while. Let me go check Telegram. They're not like that. But they just keep paying every month, you know? So even then, so if a guy who's paying, you know, a good chunk of money every month and not engaging, why would I pay attention to somebody who's not paying at all? You know, like that's just bad business in terms of finance, time, and energy. And I don't mean like the energy that I exert, but I mean like that doesn't create balance. Right? That's not harmonious with the world around us. Right? It's not harmonious with the universe. It's like it unweights things because I'm producing, I'm being creative, I'm taking on like energy, and they're just barely consuming it. They're not even consuming it properly. You know, but that's what students get. They get instruction on how to consume. Because it's not just a matter of listening to videos or audios or doing homework or anything like that. Even though those things are important, but it's understanding how to think properly so that the stuff gets in your head. So like I was saying about the friction, okay? You know, leadership, men, they are not afraid of friction. It's what creates hardness, right? When you hear like, oh, that guy's hard. It's not because he goes to the gym or he knows how to use a firearm, nothing like that. Or he can fight. Like those are great things, of course. But that's not necessarily what makes him hard. Because I've met some pussies who can shoot. I've met some pussies in the gym. I've even met some pussies who know how to fight. They crumple in front of a woman. Okay. Sure, they might be able to kill me, but they're scared of a little girl. I mean, she gets upset. Isn't that funny? They get this like giant guy, and he's like crying because his girlfriend broke up with him, or his girlfriend's upset with him, or he's sleeping on the couch because his wife's upset with him. It's like, come on, dude. Like you could literally like throw her into the next neighborhood and you're upset and crying on the couch. Like, what is going on here? But anyway, so men, we don't just tolerate it. We almost thrive in tension because it gives us fuel, gives us something to play with, right? When someone's upset, it gives us something to yeah, it gives us something to play with. And I don't mean like that in a bad way, we're being manipulative or anything like that. But it's like someone is presenting some sort of energy, and then you can shift it around. You can raise it up, drop it down, change its direction. There's a lot you can do, or you can do nothing at all, which is doing something. But guys, weak males, they avoid this. They're like a deer in the headlights when a girl's upset. They don't know how to deal with it, so they freeze, and then whang, they get hit by the car. And the thing is that when they avoid the conflict, all right, what that does is it shifts the emotional burden back onto the woman. How fucked up is that? Right? It shifts the emotional burden back onto her. So another great reason why women detest weak males. Because they just can't handle anything. And when they can't handle something, by nature of the universe, it finds balance, it flows right back onto her. Right? Like water flowing down a stream, and then it hits a dam, and it's going to hit that dam and splash backwards in the direction that it came. And that's going to land on her. Because essentially what the guy's saying, without saying it, I can't handle this. Please take the wheel. Lead me and lead you. Yeah. That's what that's saying. So, and the thing is that when a woman is burdened emotionally from the male that's in front of her, it erodes desire faster than actually being overtly cruel. Having overt cruelty is better than being shouldered with your weak ass inability to handle emotions. So if like a girl has a choice between like a weak male who burdens her or a cruel guy, she'll probably take the cruel guy. If there's like no other choice. Because the cruel man is not draining. Okay, there's like a life force that's sucked out of her when she has to be shouldered with a weak male's emotions and his inability to handle conflict, friction, and when it becomes clear that he is made of paper mache. And it's just like painted silver with spray paint to mimic metal. So what happens is that when a guy's like this, it raises her antennas, right? It's like the potential for a red flag. And so women will intuitively test men to assess their competence under pressure. They'll see if he freaks out. How is he going to handle me? Or how he's going to handle this experience? And so, well, she's just going to observe. Like, are you going to crumple? You're going to crumple like a piece of paper. And guys will take this personally. They'll be like, "Oh, she's she's testing me, and that's a huge disrespect." No, what would be disrespectful is to accept you at face value. That would be disrespectful. That'd be disrespectful for you because she's not actually seeing you, right? Like face value for anything is not giving a real chance to assess the thing that you've got. So you grab a book and you're like, hey, this book, it's got a nice cover. It must be a masterpiece, right? That's really disrespecting the literary efforts within the pages. It's disrespectful to herself. Like the whole thing, okay, to just accept things. But this is what nice males want. They want to be accepted based on their presentation. And presentation has its place, but this will not win over a woman. It might gain her curiosity, for sure. She might think, wow, that guy's something else. That guy's sexy. That guy's charming. That guy's confident. But those things are just enough to gain her curiosity. And, and this is why you hear, in sitcoms and, funny rom-com movies where there's like a good-looking guy and she's like, shh, just stop talking. Just stop talking. Because he sounds like a moron. And so because when you open your mouth, this is when your truth is revealed. Because we can tell how you think based on the words that you use. Shout out to Miles Cunningham, who says, what's he say? You reveal your own truth through the words that you use. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But that's what happens. Your words reveal your truth. It reveals your presence, it reveals your identity. It reveals how grounded or how ungrounded you are. I have no problem being exposed because I don't fear the judgment of others. It's not to say that I'm perfect. Nobody's perfect. I make mistakes just like the next guy. The difference is that I don't fear making mistakes because my self-worth isn't riding on the perceptions of other people, because I'm not trying to win other people over. I'm not trying to gain their favor. But nice males are. They cannot stand being exposed. They cannot stand being called out. And sometimes these guys, they will explode. They'll react. They'll react sharply to being exposed. I see this all over the place. I see it on YouTube. I see it on TikTok. I see it on, or I hear it on Clubhouse. You can always tell a weak male if after they've been called out or they're exposed and they explode. So that shows that what was protecting them was just a veneer. It was just a thin veneer. But a man who's not afraid of perceptions, who has honor and integrity, that when he gets called out, he can say, you know what? Actually, you're right. I made a mistake. And doing things like that is part of the process that gains trust. Even though you made a mistake, it actually makes you more reliable than someone who defends themselves. Yes. Yep. Oh, yes. There it is. Language exposes you. There you go. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. But because here's the thing, and I've talked about this as far as like conversation tactics. When someone's upset at you for whatever reason, you agree with them. If it's something factual, if it's correct, right? You're supposed to show up to this thing. You were half an hour late. And they're like, fuck, Bob, you're half an hour late. We were supposed to start 30 minutes ago. And instead of defending yourself like a weak ass male, well, the train was delayed. Well, there was traffic. Well, this dog ran out in front of my car and I, almost got into an accident or whatever, I couldn't find my keys. All bullshit, all just filler. You look at the facts. The objective fact is that you are 30 minutes late and your friend is upset. So you acknowledge the feeling. I can see you're really upset. Actually, you do that after agreeing with them. You're 30 minutes late. You know what? You're right. I am 30 minutes late. And I can see that's really upset you. That's going to change the entire framing of the conversation. Because what's expected, most people, they expect that the other person's going to defend themselves. So they're all rearing up. They're getting tense inside, and they're getting ready for that volley coming back to them of defense. And then it never comes. And with this just calm truth and acceptance, you know what, you're right. I am 30 minutes late, and I can see that's pissed you off. And this completely diffuses the situation because it's an unexpected answer. It's an unexpected energy. And it completely throws them off. You want to talk about domination? You're dominating them energetically without them even knowing it. And yes, you can do this with your woman. But this is one of the skills that you can utilize when you don't veer away from tension. Because in order to do this, you have to be able to sit right there in the front of tension as it comes at you like a wave. And then you just redirect it like a Tai Chi master. You know, this kick comes in and you're just like, wow. And it's like over here. And he's like, what the fuck? I didn't even feel you redirecting. What the hell just happened? They say something else. You know what? You're right. That's true. And it just like causes like feedback in their brain. You know, they get that spinning like computer thinking thing going on. You know, it's quite funny, but you can only do this if you're out of your own emotions. If you don't get triggered by someone else being triggered. That's what's really important. Okay. And so in those situations, what often happens with weak males is that when they're faced with that sort of tension, whether someone's upset with them or they're being called out or accused of something, the weak male, they will appease, they'll explain, they'll over accommodate, or what's commonly known. One of the things I picked up from the red pill space is that they DEER, DEER, defend, explain, excuse, and rationalize. And this is often what guys will do. So if you catch yourself defending or explaining yourself or excusing your behavior or the other person's behavior or rationalizing your behavior or the situation or whatever, okay, then you are DEERing. And it isn't always when someone's coming at you with something, okay? Like, let's say you made a date with a girl and she's taking forever. Like, let's say you're at the meetup spot, you're at the bar or the cafe or what have you, and you're looking at your watch and like, damn, she's 25 minutes late, And from there, because the guy's weak, he rationalizes it. Oh, she does live across town. Or, oh yeah, that's girls. They always take a long time getting ready. And you start rationalizing these sort of things. All right. Because the man would be like, 25 minutes late, didn't send me any sort of message, and just giving me a heads up or any communication whatsoever. So going to message or call her, say, Jennifer, you're incredibly late. You did not communicate with me at all regarding your situation. We're calling off this date, or I'm calling off this date, and I'm going home. And then just see how she responds. If she apologizes profusely, oh my gosh, blah, 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 you can decide for yourself if you want to give her the opportunity to make it up to you. Okay? Because like from my position, it's like I'm doing her a favor. Like I don't care she's at this point still an NPC. She's not proven herself valuable to me at all. So, all she is just another cute face. Okay, there's like literally thousands of them. What makes her so special? Because she's meeting up with me? Why? That doesn't make one special. One becomes special when I choose you. That's how a girl becomes special to me, because I choose her. It's kind of like I'm at a flea market and I'm looking at coffee mugs. At that point, they all have the same value, which is 0. I'm looking for a new mug, and I find one. I'm like, I like that one. I like its shape. I like its color. I like the design on it, whatever. I actually have like a collection of like random, interesting coffee mugs. None of my coffee mugs match. None. And because I just like collecting the unique mugs. And so the moment that that mug catches my eye, I can say, this has value to me. And of course, like, it doesn't go far beyond that. It's purely based on aesthetics. All right. I'm not saying that my assessment of women is based on aesthetics. Right? That's different, because we have humans and human behavior. Like, basically with the mug, I have to like what it looks like, and can it hold liquid? That's the criteria is pretty darn short. But the point is that it remains at a 0 position until I decide it has value. Now it shifts into a different reality. Moments ago, it was in one reality where it meant nothing. Now it shifts into something that means something. And that shift is dependent on my choosing. And so it's the same thing with the girl. It's a choice that I make to create that shift, to bring her out of the realm of NPC, from non-player characters. Just part of the algorithm, just part of the matrix. So I pull her out because I've chosen, and now she has value, at least from like a beginning standpoint. There's value checks along the way as we progress. I like the way she carries herself. I like her posture. I like how she speaks. I like her manners, right? It's like all these little things, they start adding up over time. And it's mostly behavioral. Just like with Miles's quote, I'm looking for what truths are revealed through certain consistencies. And so I make mental notes of the things that I like, things that I don't like. The things that I don't like, is it sporadic or is it habitual? Can it be trained out? Is it something that I feel like dealing with? Because nobody's perfect. My girl, she's fantastic in many, many ways. But she's not perfect. Everyone has things that they need to work on, myself included. So, but at the point when you see something of behavior that you're like, can I deal with that, for one? Like, do I have the skill and the capacity for it to deal with that behavior? Or, do I have the patience for it? Do I want to deal? Because I could have the skills, but not want to deal with it. I could have the desire and not the skills. But you have to have the desire to deal with it, as well as the skills to deal with it. And it's very important, okay? Because guys will take girls on and think, I can live with that. You're not going to be able to. So whatever it is, because eventually that shit's going to get into your skin. And it's going to keep like festering if you don't address these things, okay? And depending on what it is, it might have a short solution or long solution. Behavioral things, I would say, almost always have a long solution. So you got to think, all right, well, is this something I want to deal with? Can I untangle it? And is it worth my while once it gets untangled? And that's only something that you can decide. That's your brand of leadership, to decide on what is fitting for your life, your program, your system. It's like a university. They can have great programs, very well thought out, and there's always going to be a student. There's always going to be like a part of the student body in those classes, or in this particular class, that's not getting with the fucking program. Like, that one student is like one aspect of, say, her behavior or an aspect of her personality. And it's like, well, okay, is this kid, as the professor, you're sitting and looking at this kid, you're like, is this kid someone that I can help? Are they going to allow themselves to be helped by me? Or are they just going to be a pain in my ass for the whole year? Am I going to have to kick them out of my class? Are they going to fail? Are they going to let themselves fail? Is that a cry for help? By continuously not putting in enough effort. So you have to really assess these things. This is why you shouldn't be so entranced by beauty. Sure, I'm not saying that you should ignore beauty. Beautiful women are amazing. I love looking at pretty girls. But you cannot become entranced by them. You cannot be bewitched by a woman's beauty. You have to look at behavior. Because I tell you that any woman, regardless of her looks, her beauty increases when her behavior becomes on point with your system. Like a 3 becomes a 6. A 6 becomes a 12. A 9 becomes an 18. It's that much of a jump. And if you don't think so, then I don't think you have ever been with a girl who has been devoted, who has really wanted to be part of your system, that really wants to understand and become part of your way of thinking and behaving, part of your belief system, which should be at the very heart of it, yourself. Believing in yourself. Because if you have, then you would understand. You'd understand what I'm talking about here. And you would see how valuable it is, how utterly valuable it is to have a woman who is behaving that is so very much in sync with your system. Again, it's never going to be perfect. I can't say never, but it's not going to be perfect. Because we have humans that we're dealing with here, not robots. Okay? And as much as some guys would love to have a robot girlfriend, I don't think they would. Because as they tried in the first iteration of the Matrix, humans do not like 100% peace. We thrive off of a bit of calamity, don't we? So they ended up scrapping it and making this reality, where there is strife, hardship, challenge, struggle. Because when things are just too perfect, it almost makes us feel like it's not worth it. Boy, we really went down a tangent on that one. So let's move on about why girls dislike weak men. So what happens a lot with weak males is that they perform, right? They do performative empathy, and respect is generated by consistency, not performative empathy. Being consistent. And empathy is not necessarily always being soft. Like, if I need to say, like, my kid's fucking up, and I need to perhaps harshly correct their behavior, that's actually done out of empathy because I care enough to correct. I care enough to pay attention to the nuances. Like, I will correct my girl's grammar because I care enough to. Because I've chosen. And this is very important. The weak male, he's not going to do that. He's going, first of all, he's going to be too scared to make any sort of corrections. But also his empathy, his caring for that girl, it's purely performative. He's doing all of it for himself. All of that shit he's doing for himself. So and so when he's like her, and we talked about that before, when he's like her, it disrupts natural flow. The real natural flow is actually friction. Another one of my teachers, he was all about friction. Like he was a warrior. This was another teacher of mine who was I'm not going to drop his name because he's a bit controversial, but it's the type of guy who's like preparing for World War III. And like his school is like a bunker, basically. And he loves fighting. He loves conflict. He likes friction. And now that I think back on it, I think he was a dom also. But just thinking about like the way he talked to his girlfriend and the things they did and just how open he was about like just sexuality, and he definitely was sadistic. Like, I remember he hogtied me just to have fun with it, like just to see me struggle. And yeah, it was an interesting thing. I remember I had a rope around my throat and hands behind my back, feet curled behind me. And it was like a true like hog tie. And it's a fucked thing. Like you can't get out. And after a while, like your lower back starts cramping because it's not meant to flex like that constantly. And so that makes you want to pull forward to release that tension. But then when you do, you start choking yourself. And in the time it was torturous, but now many years later, I can appreciate the game that I was put into, right? Just that fucked if you do, fucked if you don't sort of thing. I like catch-22s, but that's the polarity. That is the polarity that women love. Being polarizing, but not necessarily being an asshole. I mean, being an asshole surely is polarizing. And if you are polarizing, you might be called an asshole by her, but you're not actually being an asshole. Because like assholes, they're flagrantly rude and disrespectful. Like almost like consciously disrespectful. And that's being an asshole. But being a man, you will be called an asshole. Simply because you're polarizing. Simply because you are not very appeasing to the wishes of other people. You're not appeasing to the pleasantry seeking of girls. It's just not in your nature. Because you're like, why? You're an NPC. What's the point? I don't see any value in that. So that what that does is it creates sexual energy, because sexual energy, in order to actually exist, requires polarity. It requires asymmetry. And this is why equal emotional footing will kill all kinds of tension, because it equalizes the positive and negative poles. So it kills everything. This is why toxic relationships often have the best sex, right? Because there's so much polarizing energy. But the thing is with that, is that it's not controlled. It's like a wildfire. And when you play around with a wildfire, everyone gets burned, yes? But it is possible to be very polarizing and not destructive about it. And this is what really keeps sparks alive. You know, it's not going on date nights, because that's just simulations, right? The date night should not be coming about as a schedule or an obligation. It should be an extension of your spark, an extension of your polarity. That is the very basis of a good relationship, is being able to maintain polarizing energy. You know, and sometimes that's teasing her. You know, it's fully remaining in your masculine presence and her in her feminine presence. And just by the nature of that alone is polarizing. But it's like when she comes up out of that and you come up out of yours and start kind of dipping your toes in each other's atmosphere, it kills things. And the way a lot of guys are programmed is that they're programmed to dabble. Sometimes they're programmed to just wade right into her pool of femininity, washing away his masculine presence until he's just not any one particular color. He's not the color of masculinity. He's not the color of femininity. He's just kind of this weird wash, you know? And the thing is that, you know, if you take like a set of watercolors, right? Those kid watercolors where it's like, I don't know, maybe like 8 different colors. And you put some water on your paper and dip into each one and put it on that blob of water on the page and swirl it all around. It'll turn into this brownish gray color. It's not distinct. All right? The more distinct you are in your presence, and the more distinct she is in her presence, the more polarizing your interaction will be. Now, include sexual attraction, include genuine curiosity within one another, include respect, include playfulness, include what's the word of like shared interests, compatibilities. Now it becomes very powerful, but it's all based on that root of polarity. Because you could have these other things, but if it's not polarizing, right? Because you could have people who are attracted to one another, okay, sexually, and they could have sex, but they're not deeply attracted to one another. They're not drawn to each other, like gravitationally. Okay, because if there's no polarity, they're not going to be drawn. There's tons of people who have sex with each other who are not drawn to one another through polarizing means, through gravitational fields. They're not. They're having sex out of choice. They're having sex out of need. They're having sex out of horniness, hormonal fluctuations, that sort of stuff. Superficial, like, oh, he's a good-looking guy, or she would look good as a notch on my belt. Something I can tell my friends. I'll take a picture of her in bed with me, while she's passed out. But there's no connection there. She's not drawn to you. You're not drawn to her. None of that shit. Okay? You could have shared interests. You could have all kinds of compatibilities. But if there's no polarizing energy at its root, it really won't do much. And there's plenty of people who actually start relationships based on these things. And this is where you have these superficial relationships where they're together for the optics, but they're not actually together. She's not really with him. She's just there. They're cooperating with one another. And this is, what happens when, people are together for a while and they look at the dude or look at the woman and go, fuck, do I even really know that person? Like, who is that? Like, who is that stranger sitting on my couch, eating my snacks, watching my TV? Like, what the fuck? Who is that? Because when you come out of these things, right? And this is the realization that you have when there is no polarity. Polarity allows you to know someone very easily because who they are is very distinct. It becomes distinct when someone is in their polarizing position. It's not hard to figure out. But when when a guy is that way and he's in his polarizing position and he is contained, he is that container, then this is what allows her to relax. Okay? She can relax when a man can hold his frame around her. And she can soften. And you can then choose. When she's soft, you can then choose to allow her to just remain as she is in a softened state. Because sometimes, frankly, that's what the environment calls for. That's what the situation calls for. Okay. And, but other times, that softness requires you to do something with it. And things that are soft are easily shaped. I mentioned my time with sculpture. I studied it in college. And there's a big difference between carving soapstone and carving granite. Granite, you need a fucking jackhammer. You need pneumatic tools. And then they have these tools. They're sort of like a jackhammer, but they're not so big you hold them with two hands like this and stand upright. You can kind of hold it like a rifle. And it has a similar attachment on the end, this chisel, but it's much smaller. Okay. Almost the same size as like a handheld chisel, a little bit bigger, and use that to kind of chip away, right? And it's all powered by air, and you have to take frequent breaks because those things are fucking heavy, okay? So super heavy, because they have to make them dense, plus the weight of the motor to withstand all the vibrations, and then all the vibrating makes your hands go numb. So it takes a long time. Pain in the ass. Carving shit that hard and that big. So when she's soft, this allows you to actually move her around, shape her mindset, shape her emotions, shape her body. It's when she softens. And when she comes out of her pride, when she comes out of her ego, when she comes out of, however that may look. And this is when your will can move her softness around. Okay. And she'll let it happen with, depending on how thin that ego and pride is, depending on how much trust is there. All right, remember I said trust is like a dial. It's like a dimmer light, okay? It's got a wide range. So it's not like if a girl trusts you, then it's full-on implicit trust, top to bottom, until the end of time. It doesn't work that way. There's depth to trust. And I don't know if it even has a limit. I don't know if depth has an upper limit where it can just keep going and going. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I've never really tested that. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. So the funny thing is about with these nice guys, and like the last show that we talked about with like narratives and such, we talked about how certain narratives in society help program and neurocondition women to behave a certain way, and their oxytocin basically follows what's presented as in the culture. And men have had a similar thing. They've been shown a cultural narrative that is supposedly rewards niceness. It rewards weak men. And the funny part is that it flies in the face of biology. Because the biology says competence is rewarded. Right? Being steadfast is rewarded. Being grounded is rewarded. Sometimes being violent is rewarded. Essentially, not avoiding conflict is rewarded. But the way the cultural narrative is, like for these guys, right? Rewiring their neural pathways, just in the same way that girls are, but just different outcomes, different pathways, but rewiring nonetheless. They get this narrative saying, listen, you'll get all the things that you want if you just play the good guy. Be docile. Do not be a threat to society. Don't be a threat to women. Don't cause conflict. Don't cause friction. Be compliant. Be yielding. Bend. Don't explode. Don't be argumentative. Don't have boundaries. Don't have standards. Just go with the flow. Go with what is presented to you. Do what you're told. And so it's sort of like a castration of sorts, but through the mind. And so many guys have been castrated. They've been blunted by these narratives. And yeah, there's a process to coming out. There really is. There's not like a complete loss with the red pill. The entire thing is not worth throwing out. I do think that it's become a cult, but there are some things in it, especially early on, that are worthwhile. And part of that I saw is the red pill rage, where guys come out of that narrative, that conditioned narrative, and they're like, holy shit, the world doesn't really operate like this. Who's winning out here? Villains are winning. Villains control the world on the macro and the micro. And I don't mean villain in the sense that necessarily using other people for gain or with a sole purpose in causing harm. Surely there are people like that fit that description of villain in the world, for sure. Okay, but it's like the villainous spirit. And there's tons of people who have the villainous spirit who are winning. And that's who wins. The villainous spirit person, he wins. He's the monster. He's the beast from the Beauty and the Beast. And he is who makes her swoon. When he's the type of guy who goes against the grain, But in order to come out of that, right, or to come to that, there's that red pill rage where you're like, fuck, and you get so pissed that you've been duped by this generational story that basically rewrote your mind, or wrote your mind, not rewrote it, but wrote your mind to be in a certain way. And it did to, probably your father and his father and so on. It's not just like your generation. You realize this has been going on for quite some time. And yeah, guys get pissed off. And that's part of it. There's bound to be a massive shift in waking up to something. Sometimes it's despair. Sometimes it's hopelessness. Sometimes it's anger. Because it's very similar to when you come out of the realizations that you have about yourself. Because you can, like, the stuff that I do with my students, they basically have their own kind of like blue pilling themselves, where they had certain beliefs about themselves, certain qualities and perceptions of themselves, that everything's kind of good, and then they develop a certain level of self-awareness that is greater than what they've really been accustomed to in the past. And they see things as they are about themselves for the first time in a while, if not ever. And it really hits like a ton of bricks. And so it's sort of like having, a red pill rage moment, but within yourself, about yourself, not just about the world. And that's the whole dark night of the soul. That's coming into the first of the 4 stages of Gnosis transformation, which is the Negredo, the darkening. And you get to see, your own darkness. You get to see all the things you've lied to yourself about yourself. It's not pretty. It isn't, but it's not supposed to be. To plant a tree, vegetables, fruit, carrots, rutabagas, whatever. If you want to plant anything, you have to go digging into the dirt. You need to get into the dark, wet soil where the bugs and the worms are. You have to dig around. You have to pull out the weeds, right? And that's when you can actually grow something out of it. You can't just take the seed and toss it on top of the dirt and hope something will happen. I think grass is the only thing you can do that with. Like grass seed. But anything else that requires planting, you have to dig into the dirt. Get deep into the soil. And so that's really how you have to do it with yourself. If you want to come out from being seen as a weak male. And this is, all my guys do this. All of my guys do this. They, at one point or another, they get to a point where they must face themselves. And this is ultimately what starts the whole thing, starts the whole ball rolling, is when you stop lying to yourself about yourself. Because, as I say, the path of manhood is laid in bricks of honesty. And so once you stop bullshitting yourself and start looking at yourself as it is, not as you think it is, not as you wish it would be, but just as it is, and then try to get to the level of looking at yourself as it is without any emotions tied to it, without saying, oh, that's awful, or, oh, that's fucking great. Just looking at it as it is, plainly. No judgment in either direction. Up, down, left, right, nothing. Now you can really start. Now you can really start walking. Now you can really start developing. Because oftentimes what's holding back development of that self are your silly emotions. Oh, that's scary. Oh, that's painful. That's uncomfortable. That's worrisome. That's deplorable. Or if it's blown up on the other side, it's fucking awesome. I'm perfect. I'm great. I don't need to do anything. No. Like all of that are deflections from actually getting something done. There's just defense mechanisms. Because you could say, my kid, he fucked something up. And I go, hey, you fucked up that thing. If he spends time sitting there feeling sorry for himself, which, I mean, he's entitled to feel bad about his actions. Let's say he made a terrible mistake or whatever. He's entitled to feel bad about it. But to sit there and ruminate and wallow, all that is just stalling. Stalling from doing what's necessary, what must be done. This is the path. This is how you go about things. This is how you make progress. And so ultimately, when you do this in yourself, and this is how I teach my guys, I say, listen, I'm coaching you so that you can grow, but you're also learning how to coach. Because if you get a woman in your life, there will be times when you need to teach her things. That you need to teach her about herself, about how she's thinking, about her habits, about how she's feeling about herself, how she perceives herself. All of these things are very important because if she's part of your system, if she's on your program, how she is, how she behaves, her habits, how she sees herself, how she feels about herself will ultimately play back into how things move in your system. So it's incumbent upon you to know how to handle your woman, which starts with knowing how to handle yourself. It begins with you. And so what you do in these situations, you are demonstrating your authority. And this is how respect grows. Respect follows demonstrated authority, not declared intentions. Like, let's say she's got a problem. Let's say she knows she has some sort of problem, and she's like, yeah, I know, I have this really bad habit of whatever. And you say, you know what? I hear that, and I'm going to help you with that. And then you don't do anything. Like, there's so many layers to that. Like, not only just the following through, that's just one of them. But there's so many psychological, emotional layers to that on her end that are really bad. It fucks shit up. Okay? Because how is she going to look to you if you're not able to do the things that you say you're going to do? Right? Doing what you're saying you're going to do is a form of authority because you're claiming authority over yourself. Your principle of, I do what I set out to do, let's say that's a principle of yours. That thing rules over you. You live by the principle, not the principle lives by you. And so that's you demonstrating authority. And then she's like, oh, okay. I see that he's this way consistently. I think I can trust him. So when he says, do this or don't do that, it might be uncomfortable. It might be uncomfortable for me to try these things or to do what he asks. But I'm going to do them anyways because I trust him, because he's demonstrated authority. Not to me, he's demonstrated authority to himself. And that is the very powerful message. That's the thing that really gets in them. And this is something that weak males will never be able to do. They can't because they're scared. They have no authority. They don't, and it's clear that they don't have authority over themselves, right? Because she can tell that the words that come out of her mouth have a great potential to affect him. The probability is very high that she could offend him or hurt his feelings set him off, either through sadness or anger, that he gets overly giddy about her. He does extra. It's like, yeah, here, maybe it's some sort of celebration. He gets her flowers. Fine. People get people flowers. But he gets one of those like monstrous bouquets. Like I've seen girls like that. They're like on social media, they're like holding up this bouquet and it's like 100 roses. Like her like arms are straining to hold the fucking thing. It's like, that's going too far. That's going way too far. There's no restraint. Like when she can tell that you get that giddy or that you have no restraint. This kills things. She cannot respect this. And it seems reasonable, but that no one could. So why would you expect a girl to respect you if you wouldn't do that shit either? And the thing is that sort of stuff, that canned behavior, that she can tell it's thought out. There's something in her that says, this is not authentic. Right? Because authenticity just doesn't reward for the sake of rewarding. Authenticity rewards based on merit. Things that make sense. Like this is what authority does. This is what authenticity does. It rewards based on position. It rewards based on performance. It rewards in a way that makes rational sense. So then when the girl is faced with this guy who's doing all these extra things, rewarding her with tons of extra time, attention, dick, munching on her pussy for an hour, getting her massive bouquets of flowers, doing this, doing that, like just picking up, like in any way possible form or opportunity that he can. I'm exaggerating here, but on a varying scale, tons of guys are like this. Tons. And so they might be able to go along with it, but there's something instinctual inside her that says something's wrong. Like this is not a normal way to behave. And it's not like he's known me for years and I've been his girl for years. Sure, girl's been with you for years. You want to get her a fucking bouquet of 100 flowers? Fine, whatever. But that's like been together for years, not a couple weeks. But that's how guys are operating after a couple of weeks. That is easily read as strategy. And the strategy is sensed. It's not felt. They sense it. They're like, he's up to something. But it's nice, so she accepts it. But he's cute, so she accepts it. These are terrible moves by women. Because it doesn't produce a feeling. Authenticity is felt. And part of authenticity is not caring what other people think without a chip on your shoulder. It's not defensively not caring what people think, right? Because there's some people like, I don't give a fuck what people think about me. And it's like, yeah, you do. You're so outward about it. You're so overt about your not caring, right? Like that doesn't make sense. Yeah, being like overtly, like vehemently not caring. How do you vehemently not care? It's weird, right? Like true not caring is not caring, which is a pretty calm state. So you don't want to be like that. I mean, genuinely not caring of what people think. And this is part of being authentic. Because authenticity, what comes with authenticity, is acceptance of oneself fully. fully accepting of oneself. There's no self-rejection. And this is how you can show up in the world. This is what a man does. A man shows up in the world like this. These scared males, they will not. First of all, they're afraid of themselves. They reject themselves. They don't like themselves. And so they hide and obfuscate and dress up and cosplay in order to sort of create a mirage so that he's not detected, so that she'll perhaps like him, so that she'll notice him, so that she'll date him, so that she'll fuck him. And those things might happen. And what's terrible is that there's probably something itching inside her that she knows, like instinctually, the sixth sense, that something's off about this guy. And unfortunately, when girls go along with these guys, accepting those flowers, accepting the gifts, accepting the money, accepting the trips, accepting the bags, accepting the sex, accepting the dates, when they can feel it, they feel that he's lacking in his authentic presence, that there's a bit of a performance going on. She should not be entertaining these men. I get it. Girls get bored, they get lonely. And what's it gonna hurt if I let him take me out and buy me dinner? I get to dress up, I get to put on some perfume, look cute, talk to a stranger, all this like justification. Right? But what it's really doing, it's enabling. You're enabling someone's behavior, because what they're going to get is, oh, well, I did that stuff. She accepted me, so I'll do it again, or I'll do it more. That's the problem. So it's your fault, girls. It's your fault that these guys are all fucked up because you're enabling them. No, it's not that simple, but it is an added characteristic. It's an added variable. And when you're dealing with things with a lot of variables, it's best to eliminate certain things so that we can sort out what the fuck is actually going on. So if we have something of our control that we can remove from the formula to simplify the formula, then the formula can more easily be dealt with. You know, like I had a guy who was is going through some stuff, you know, as many of my guys are. And he's like, so should I get to dating like at the same time? I'm like, no, bro. Like, you can practically stand up. No, you should not be bringing a girl into your life, because either A, you're going to hurt her, or B, you're gonna fucking fumble and she's gonna get hurt. So there's a high probability of someone getting hurt. What's the point? What, so you can get some female attention? Maybe she'll suck your dick? Like, come on. It's like, it's not that important. It's not that deep, as the kids say. It's not that deep. Man, I got this, I'm drinking this tea. It's like an herbal blend. This shit's fucking amazing. And yeah, something for, it's like one of the medicinal teas. And I think it has like a mixture of black tea in it with a bunch of like other herbs. And it reminds me of this fragrance that I just picked up, you know, because my girl, she wears, what is it? Le Labo Noir 29. That's what it's called. The company is called Le Labo. And then the individual fragrance is called Noir 29. Turns out, because I wanted to smell it, so I got some. And turns out it's a unisex fragrance, and it's fucking amazing. And it doesn't like contain black tea, but the perfumer decided to kind of model it after the black tea smell, and it's like, it's so on point. Like, you can really smell the black tea when you're smelling it, but it's got like a bunch of other notes in it as well. But this shit's awesome. It's a really, really good fragrance. So I'm probably going to look around and try to find like a sizable bottle for it. Usually there's good deals on eBay, um, or maybe I'll try to see if there's somebody who makes like a really good dupe. I've been a fan of finding good dupes, like the research in it and then comparing and see what's up. You know, like I'm a big fan of the brand PDM, Parfums de Marly. If you like um, complex fragrances, check out Parfums de Marly. They're really good. Unfortunately, their fragrances are really expensive. Uh, it's like $500 for like 30 ml sort of thing. But anyways, so one of their fragrances that I really like is called Percival, and it's just fantastic. It's like in the family of greens, what they call for like a type of cologne. It's like greens, so it's like smells plant like ish, or like plant roots. There's like a earthy and bitterness to it, and I fucking love it. I like, big fan, about 3 or 4 of their colognes. Greenlee, Percival, and Sedley are my favorites of theirs. But anyways, so I'm thinking about getting some. I'm like, man, it's fucking expensive. And then I hear that there's this Legend Blue. I forget who makes it. Legend Blue. Who the fuck makes that fragrance? But they're like, oh yeah, this is a total dupe of Percival. Legend Blue. Mont Blanc. So Mont Blanc has this fragrance called Legend Blue, and people are saying, oh, it's just like Percival. And I smelled it and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it lacks the bitterness of it, and that's the part that I love. Oh yeah, so yep. But yeah, Legend Blue is not like Percival at all. Not at all. Yep. I used to be a big fan of Creed, but then they just, like, I still like it, but it's just, I don't know, maybe I've smelled it too much. Actually, I just picked up Silver Mountain Water. That one's pretty good, but what's their, like, Creed's, like, main one that, like, everybody fucking wears? Aventus. Yeah. Like, Creed Aventus is fucking awesome, but I've just smelled it so much. Like, kind of like when you hear a great song and you just play it over and over and over, and then, like, you can still respect it for being a great song. You just can't fathom listening to it anymore. But yeah, Killian's good. Yeah, Valentino. I don't know Amoj. I don't know what that one is. But and there's this, like, around the corner from me, there's this Middle Eastern place where they sell watches and fragrances, and they've got just a massive collection of very unique Middle Eastern fragrances. They're usually a little too pungent for me, but occasionally you'll come across one that's a hitter, a good strong hitter. So, but see if there's good things here. And we made some stuff, but I was too busy talking. So he says, I think guys stay weak because they quickly achieve results by fulfilling a woman's childish impulses, and this fast gratification leads to both participants repeating bad behavior. Yeah. Yep. So it's like they start, like, enabling one another. Yes. What do you got here? Polarizing comes with marginalizing within separating who you're not with who you know yourself to be, prioritizing yourself above all things. That's right. I don't know if polarizing comes with marginalizing, because I think is the marginalizing kind of like making things even. But anyways, from the perspective of a woman, this girl feels that your view is very grounded because both biology and modern psychology show that attraction is closely linked to a sense of safety, emotional regulation, and leadership. Women naturally attuned to signals of inner strength, self-direction, and resilience, not out of judgment, but because the nervous system seeks stability and coherence. And when a man lacks inner structure or accountability, it subtly communicates risk rather than partnership, making withdrawal less a rejection and more an instinctive act of self-preservation, my lord. Yeah. It's almost like I said it. Yeah. Diptyque, yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. Maybe I'll do like a little fun episode. I'll bring out some of my collection and talk about the fragrances there. Um the world of fragrance is just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I follow a number of YouTube channels of not reviewers, but guys who make them. You know, there's one guy, I forget his name, but he's his fragrance lab is massive. Like, with so much love to, and I almost did. I was like, oh yeah, I want to make my own fragrances. You know, I want to make my own fragrance. And I looked into it, and you basically have to become a chemist. It's very monotonous. It's very time consuming. It's very granular with how you go about things. Very, very process oriented and detailed. Very detail oriented work. And this guy's lab is huge. Like, he's just got hundreds of bottles of oils, and yeah, tons of stuff. And he'll like be like, okay, let's you know, he'll say, okay, today we're going to create we'll create like Creed Aventus. And he's like searched around online, and he found the formula for Creed Aventus. Like, someone had figured it out, or they leaked it or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, let's check this out. And he follows the whole thing through the episode, and like mixing, and you don't realize like how long it takes to hand mix just one small bottle of fragrance. And it takes a while. And he's like, you know, he's in some sort of program on his computer to like keep everything organized. But I don't know, I just love watching that shit. It's maybe like a form of ASMR or some shit. But I'm gonna let you guys go. It's 11:30. I'm gonna get back to watching this anime. What is it? Something Ragnarok. I can't remember the name of it. But it's basically about like all these different gods from different cultures, and various humans that have achieved great things in life. You know, I'm on season 3, so I watched Nikolai Tesla battling Beelzebub. And it's just really interesting stuff, like how they take the concepts of these characters, these people. Like, obviously, like Nikolai Tesla did not have powers or abilities or anything, you know, beyond like just being a great thinker. But they made him into, you know, some sort of like kind of superhero-esque type person. But yeah, it's a cool show. What the fuck was the name of it? It's right here. Record of Ragnarok. Record of Ragnarok. Yeah, it's on Netflix. So I'm watching that. It's fun. Watching all these different gods talk and shit. So, but yeah, you know, it's pretty simple. I don't know. I don't know how these guys like go on and on with their YouTube channels, like talking about the same shit, like talking about simps and girls just like indefinitely. It's kind of redundant. It's kind of boring, but you know, it must be done because it's like, if I only talk about the shit that I really want to talk about, it's going to be so far over the heads of guys and their experience that they're going to be like, wow, like that's cool, like of what you do up on fucking Mount Olympus, but you know, here down on Earth, we're having trouble just saying hi to girls. So I get it. I get it, but I quickly want to move through the dumb shit. Okay. So if you are handling dumb shit and you want to move past it and you want to get to the good stuff, of creative and energetic interaction with a woman, uh, get in touch with me. All right, there's Uncle Guns. He put the links in the chat, or you can go to the bio of pretty much, or the description of pretty much any recent live video, and you'll see my Calendly in there. You can book a call with me, whatever day and time fits your schedule, free of charge. And while you're there, you can find the link to my website, thedominance.academy.com. And everything is, well, I guess tomorrow things are going to go back. So maybe this weekend I'll change it, but probably have until the weekend before my prices go back to normal. It was part of a lengthy holiday sale, so things are going to go back to normal. So go to the tutorials now and grab up a bunch of the recordings before they change back to the original pricing. Maybe this weekend I'll produce some new ones, but I'm not going to remove any. I'm just going to keep putting more and more and more in there. And so they're going to range from, the very approachable for like stuff for beginners, intermediate guys, and the advanced guys. So check those out. And then also in the links, the description of the video, there should be links to my Amazon. And so I've got 2 books for sale over there. You can get yourself a paperback copy of How to Be a Dominant Lover if that's what you want. Otherwise, you can get the digital version, I think either through Amazon or my website. And then also is the CODEX of the Sovereign Order, which is a collection of aphorisms that are for dominance. And these aphorisms are phrases of deep wisdom to sort of get your mind thinking in a particular direction, such that you can understand sovereignty and masculinity, manhood and dominance from a perspective that goes far beyond just looking tough and doing tough things. All right. It's actually about cultivating a tough spirit, cultivating a tough mind, being grounded. And that's what these things are. So it's sort of like a collection of these almost spiritual phrases that can, read a couple a day, or just kind of, you can have it there on your nightstand. And when you wake up, just open up to a random page and read one of them and let that be your guide for that day. That's how I use it. So go check that out. There's digital or paperback versions of that book. And again, if you have any questions, you can go to the website, thedominance.academy.com, and email me directly from the website, and I'll be able to respond to you within 24 hours. All right, well, thank you for joining me today on this live, and thank you for those who are joining me on the replays. I appreciate you all. And again, happy holidays, and I'll probably get back with you guys before the new year, so I'm not going to say Happy New Year, not just yet. Okay, until next time, appreciate you. Have a good night.